Hi everyone, welcome to this new ING Tech Meetup. 2 weeks ago we were talking Scala, tonight it's going to be, I think, Java mostly. We're receiving Deepu tonight, developer advocate at Adyen, but mostly co-lead at with JHipster, and that's the reason we're going to have him tonight. Hi Deepu.
Hey, hi.
Nice to have you. I did invite you because I was looking at JHipster last time and during Hacktoberfest actually, and I saw that you didn't have a generator for web components. So I thought, okay, we should invite that guy. Maybe we can do something later. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm not going to say much longer. A few things. Do ask your comments right now because there is some delay between the StreamYard and YouTube. So ask the questions as we go. There will be a break in the middle for your questions. So the part will be there will be 2 different parts, and there is nothing much else. Thanks for being there, and I will add your screen. And I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Take it away. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, hey everyone, welcome to this awesome session. So my name is Deepu K Sasidharan. I'm the co-lead developer of JHipster. I'm an open source software aficionado. That's what I call myself. I work as a developer advocate for Adyen. We do awesome stuff on the payment space. Do check us out if you haven't already. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, dev.to, and all those spaces. You can find my IDs there. I have also written a book on JHipster. It's the best book ever written. Trust me. Yeah, it's so beautiful that I wrote it again for a second time. So yeah, just kidding. It's a decent book, I think. So I know at least some of you are thinking this. Before we proceed, I probably would ask you how many of you are familiar with JHipster, but it's quite stupid to do that in a virtual session. So I'm just going to proceed with whatever I have. Yeah, so first, I'm definitely going to brag about how popular JHipster is. See all these cool stats and numbers we have. So we have a lot of GitHub stars, a lot of projects and stuff, a lot of installations, users. So stuff like that. So we are pretty popular. Now you might definitely be thinking this that this looks super cool. What can you do with it, right? Basically, you can do all this. Just kidding. Not there yet, but definitely on a backlog at some point. What you can so you might be asking, like, yeah, I mean, another hello world generator, right? As if we don't have enough of them already. But yeah, let's see. Unfortunately, you can't do hello world applications with JHipster, but you definitely can create production grade monolithic web applications. You can create complete microservice architectures with this. You can create your entity models, CRUD applications, and all those kind of things. You can do CI/CD pipelines, deploy to cloud or containers, and lot more. But yeah, so now you would be like, yeah, scaffolding, right? It's going to be ugly, unmaintainable code with a lot of repetitions and all those things, right? So just looks cool on the outside, but ugly on the inside, right? No. This is where you'll definitely be surprised by JHipster. So we are developer experience focus. So one of the thing we care most about is developer experience, code quality. So if you look at our Sonar rating, you will see that it is it passes the default quality gate and the coverage. Look at the coverage, look at the bugs and vulnerabilities. I'm pretty sure this will be more code quality than most of the code that we ever maintain on our own. We try to follow best practices of any combinations you have selected, fully working CRUD applications out of the box, production ready out of the box, security out of the box, all that fancy stuff. So the only thing you would have to do is, of course, do your business logic. We're not there yet to do your business logic for you. And of course, do all those fancy UX design that you want to do. Yeah, so now since you are impressed, I think you would want to know what all the bells and whistles that we have. So let's take a quick look at that. So on the client side, JHipster can do Angular applications. It supports Angular CLI, RxJS, and stuff on that side. It can also do React applications with the Redux state management. It can do Vue.js with Vuex state management. And for all these three front-end frameworks, common stuff would be like it all does Bootstrap. It provides all those cool Bootstrap themes to choose from when you start. All styling is done with Sass. All three options use TypeScript, uses Webpack just for testing, Cypress for your end-to-end testing. We had Protractor, but we have deprecated that in favor of Cypress. Prettier code formatting. We even wrote our own prettier formatter for Java, so that you can do all your formatting with prettier. Check that out as well. It's a pretty cool project. You can even use that as a Java AST CST parser. There is browser sync, and of course, hell lot of node modules, right? What's a front-end project, a modern front-end project without a lot of node modules, right? On the server side, of course, there is Spring by default. That means it comes with boot, security, data, cloud, Webflux, all that stuff. Of course, you can do authentication with JWT, which is the default, or Auth2 session. There is also WebSocket support. You can choose between Maven or Gradle. You can opt for Hibernate, and if you're going with an RDBMS, you'll get Hibernate with Liquibase for your database management. You can choose from all those databases out there, and of course, for that one person who would want to switch your databases mid-project, you can also do that actually, because it tries to create similar structure for everything. So it's quite easy to switch from one to another if you ever do that. I'm yet to find someone who actually does that. Of course, you have all that caching solutions as well. All these are the things with slash are options, so you can choose one of those. You can choose Elasticsearch, Kafka, Swagger, OpenAPI stuff. There is Timeleaf support if you want that, if you're not into Angular, React, and these kind of stuff. When it comes to testing, there is Gatling for performance testing. You can also choose Cucumber for BDD. There is Arch Unit and test container support as well. So all the fancy stuff out there. Of course, today applications are not just about client side and server side, right? You also have cloud container and all those CI/CD stuff there. So we also support all that. So you can deploy to Docker, Kubernetes, with Helm. You can do Istio, Cloud Foundry, OpenShift. All popular cloud vendors are supported. You have Elasticstack for monitoring, Prometheus, Grafana stuff. We also have Netflix OSS, which we are slowly deprecating in favor of Spring Cloud, since Netflix OSS is not well maintained anymore. We also support Consul and Traffic. So of course you can do CI/CD, Jenkins, Travis, Azure, all that. So these are all the fancy bells and whistles that JHipster supports. So of course, if you are not into these, and say for example, if you are into Kotlin, and if you want to do Kotlin instead of Java, that is also possible. We have something called blueprints. So for example, with the Kotlin blueprint, you will get entirely Kotlin backend instead of Java. Similarly, you can also do .NET if you like, Node.js on the backend instead of Java. And if you don't like Spring, you can also do Micronaut or Quarkus with those blueprints. So these are the official blueprints, and of course, there are a lot more community blueprints. For example, to do React Native application, Svelte, Ionic, all that stuff. And this is where your web components will come into picture. I'll talk about that later. So, any questions so far? So
I don't think we have questions in the audience. It is a bit noisy in the background. My daughter is going to bed. No, I do have a few questions. It seems to be doing a lot. Like, when did you join the project yourself? Is that a while ago, or?
I think I started probably around 5 years ago. So I think the project was almost a year old when I joined. So probably 5.5 years ago. I lost it.
And to me, that sounds a whole lot like plumbing is a way to say it. I guess more than application development. Like what pain point does it solve, and what seduced you in JHipster? What did you join the project like? Because you're a developer, right?
Yeah, sure. I personally joined the project. I was a consultant, so I was working for a huge airline, and my primary job was to. I was in pre-sales, so my primary job was to do new project proposals and stuff like that. So I would build all this fancy POCs and sell it to customers. and some other team will, once we win the project, some other team will take it on and they'll do that. So I was looking for something to quickly prototype stuff. That is how I discovered JHipster. I was able to quickly build application in a week, which normally would take me like months, right? And then for one of the project, unfortunately, there was some resource issues, and they couldn't find a team on time, and they asked me if I could take it on, to continue to deliver the project as well. And I was like, yeah, but we lost a lot of time trying to set it up. Like, we lost few months. Now we have a deadline, because these are fixed bit projects, so you have a deadline, and so you are coming to me after like few months and asking me to finish the project. So you are asking me to do the project in 5 months, which normally would take 8 months. So then I was like, okay, I use this tool to bootstrap, right? Let me see if I can actually do it for production as well. And I started actually looking into the code, and I was surprised to see that the produced code was like in most places was of much better quality than what I would do myself. So I was like, yeah, actually I can go production with this. So I ended up delivering the project even ahead of schedule with that. So it saved me like few months of that initial plumbing time, right? Like getting everything working together, putting the stuff together, getting the architecture up and running. All that plumbing was taken away. So my only work was like actually coding the business logic and doing the redesigning the front end for whatever UX that was a promise. So that was my only work. I didn't have to spend any time making Angular, working with Spring or whatever.
That's a big promise you're giving us right now.
Yeah. I'm going to show that. I'm not just going to promise. I'm going to show you. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you.
Okay. So is there any other questions, or should I?
I don't think there is any question yet regarding the intro now. So keep going.
Oh, there is Frederick from the JHipster
saying
hello. Yeah. Hi, Frederick.
Oh, you know him?
Okay. Yeah, he's from the JHipster core team.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a Gradle guy.
All right. Yeah. Go for it.
Cool. Yeah. So this is where it gets even more fancy. So since most of you probably does not like living in a terminal window, we also have our own DSL which you can use to bootstrap applications. So unless you get withdrawal symptoms when you are not working on the terminal, I think JDL is the most sane way to use JHipster. So I have put up some links here to refer. We also have a studio where you can work on these. I'm just going to quickly show that. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to exit this here. And oops. So this is JHipster Studio. This is where you can actually design your DSL. Of course, we also have VS Code and Eclipse plugins. If you want to do it from your IDE, that's also there. So I have an application here, which I'm going to show today. So basically, you can define your application. So whatever options I showed, right? All those are basically available here. For example, if you, you can Control Enter, and you can see all the options applicable. I'm going to keep it to MySQL. So you can define all that application options. Of course, you can look at the reference for what are the supported options. Once you have defined your applications, you can also define what entities goes there. So I'm just going to use all my entities in this application. You will also get a nice nice UML-ish kind of representation of what you have done. You can also start from a template if you like. So once you have your application defined, you have entities and relationships, right? So you can define your entity, similar-ish to JPA-ish kind of definition. So you'll go with your entity field names, types, and some validations like required, minimum, max, and these kind of things. Of course, all standard database field types are supported, column types are supported. You can also do enums. So once you have all your entities, you can define relationship between entities. So you can see those here. I have defined few relationships, and you can see those in the diagram, the relationships itself. So this one kind of models an e-commerce application. So you have a customer details which is connected to the internal user. So JHipster provides a user entity by default. You have a shopping cart, one-to-many shopping cart for your customers. You have enums for those. You have one-to-many product orders, and you have many-to-one products. And there is, of course, a product category, which again is one-to-many to a product. So finally, you can also define some options, like you can choose to have like a service class or a service class with implementation. You can choose pagination options, like with standard pagination or infinite scroll and these kind of stuff. You can define all that within the DSL. Of course, the DSL is has much more features. For example, you can do microservices like this. Like, for example, you can define like 5 of your microservices in the same DSL. You can share entities among them. You can do a lot of stuff like that. We also have annotations for if you like working that way for certain stuff, and way more. So you can refer to the JDL documentation for all the supported options. So I'm going to proceed to the next part. So the next part, of course, would be, of course, building something, right? So let me go ahead and try to build something. Oh, I lost my notes. Yes. Okay, probably you're not bored yet, so I'm going to quickly show. Let's make a new folder. Let's call it ing app. Yeah. So I'm going to run a command. I'm going to run JHipster. Oops. JHipster JDL, and I'm going to specify this name. So we actually have a sample repo in our GitHub. So it's called JDL samples. So you can also directly use one of the sample to bootstrap, or you can use a URL, or you can use a local file. So I'm going to use one of the samples. So if you're using a sample, you just need to provide the name, and the CLI would automatically pick that up. So I'm using a sample called e-commerce monolith JDL, and I'm going to skip generating fake data. By default, JHipster generates fake data for all the entities, so that when you bootstrap in development, you have some data to work with. It's quite convenient, right? But for this purpose, I'm going to skip that, because I'm using the latest beta of JHipster 7, and there is a small issue with one-to-one relationships. When you generate fake data, the one-to-one relationship fake data is slightly messed up, so that's going to fail my database updates. So I'm going to skip fake data. It's just useful in actual development, so something that we would fix in the actual release, hopefully. So I'm going to just run this command, and it's going to create a bunch of files. So that means it's going to generate all the server side, client side, and all that code. And then it's going to run some commands. For example, in this case, it's going to run npm install for all the client side stuff, and then just clean up and those kind of stuff. If you're doing microservices, for example, you can create like a bunch of microservices at the same time. So it'll all be run in parallel to save time. And finally, it's going to show you some useful commands to proceed further. So while this is happening, let me open it up in an IDE, because of course npm install is the biggest step here, most time consuming step here. So that's going to take a while. So I'm going to just open this up in IDEA. Okay, yes. I'm going to run this in the background. So let's look at what was generated. So I promised a lot, right? So let's see if it delivers. From the size of it, you can see this is not a toy project, right? It's quite serious. I mean, a project is serious when you can actually run your server-side stuff from your npm files, and vice versa. You can also run your client-side stuff from your Gradle file. So now you know that it's a serious project. It's not a toy project, right? So yeah, jokes aside, let's see what we have. So first of all, we have configuration files and stuff for everything, like all the basic stuff that you actually need in a realistic project, like ESLint configurations, editor configurations, your Husky stuff, prettier stuff, all that things there. Of course, you have your build.gradle files here. If you can also choose Maven if you like. I just like Gradle. Packet.json, and we already saw that. Your tsconfig files, all your webpack stuff is there, and all your Gradle scripts are also there with the wrapper. The .jhipster folder would contain JSON files of all the entities. So if you want to do some modifications and stuff, you can do it here, or you can just do it in the JDL and rerun, and it will regenerate based on what you have changed. So in the SRC, of course, tests, very important. We take that quite seriously. As you saw in the previous slide, we aim for at least 80% code coverage. That means for any code we generate, we also generate actual working tests for that. So it's not just like dummy tests. It is actual working tests for whatever we generate for CRUD and everything. So you can see for every entity we generated, there is a test case even for that. And for every web endpoint, you have tests for everything. Every endpoint, you have tests for that, end-to-end tests. So, oops. Okay, I think indexing finished. Not nice to just close that, I think. So, I was talking about tests. Yeah, by default, JUnit tests are generated, end-to-end, integration tests and unit tests are generated. You could also enable Gatling and Cucumber, and those will be generated as well. Those are optional. Also, let's go here. Yes. In main, there are some Docker configuration files for convenience. So if you are using Docker, everything is already there for you, including all the infrastructure that is required. Like, for example, you chose MySQL. So that means you will have your MySQL YAML. You'll have some definitions for monitoring stuff, your application itself, Prometheus, Grafana, all this pre-configured. We also use Jib for Docker packaging, which makes things much more faster and easier with incremental builds and stuff like that. We have two other important stuff. So all your Java code is here. So all your configuration stuff will be generated. Security configuration, production grade security configurations will be generated using Spring Security, of course. Database configurations, you can see here. It's again like not just like some starter thing. It's like the real stuff. And in domain, you would have all your entities. So JPA entities are generated for everything. You have your repositories using Spring data. So that means minimal coding required. So fully functional repositories with minimal coding. And all your security stuff here. Service classes, we went with service classes, right? So there is not going to be service class and implementation. If you have chosen service implementation, you would have class and implementation. So services for all your entities, and of course, the important part, REST endpoints for all your entities. So this basically gives you CRUD. You can also, if you have chosen Elasticsearch, you will also have endpoints for Elasticsearch for every, like search endpoints for every entity. And if you enable filtering, you will also have filtering endpoints for every entity, like based on query DSL. And so criteria, specifications, everything will be generated. So web app. So that's the backend part. So on the front end, you have a fully functional standard web app based on whatever client side you chose. So I chose React. So that means I'm going to have a fully standard compliant React app. So you would have, it's all in TypeScript. So you would have your, where are my entities? So you have a page per entity. You would have your configurations. You have, for example, administration modules, account management, all the fancy stuff. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details of the code itself, because this is something you can just generate yourself. It's quite easy. You just install JHipster and you run one command, and you run the exact command that I did. Where is it? Where's it? Yes. You can run this one command, JHipster JDL e-commerce app.jdl, and you will get the exact same project in your local environment, and you can go through the code and you can try it out, test it out, and you can form your own opinion as well. So let's go ahead and actually run this. So where's my terminal? I'm going to run this actually. That's the next step. So I just have to run Gradle W because we have configured a default command. So it would start up the project. So since this is the first run, it's going to take a few more seconds than normal because it's going to do a front end build as well, which takes longer than the backend build, unfortunately, due to all the stuff we have. So it's going to it's going to do an npm install if it is not already done. So I think in this case it will just skip over that and go directly to the webpack build. So it's going to build your webpack files and then start up your server. So we provide embedded servers, so you don't have to actually run any servers on your own. We used to have no, actually we don't provide options for that. We just provide an undertow server by default. So we have a question actually. How often do you update libraries in the JHipster? Very often, very often. If you follow the project itself, you'll know that of course we update everything for major versions, definitely, but we also keep server-side and client-side libraries quite up to date. So if you check the generated package JSON, for example, right? So where are my dependencies? Yeah. So you can see that like React version, for example, it's the latest, right? Similarly, if you go to your build Gradle, actually you won't see the server-side versions on build Gradle because we manage it with a BOM. So we have a JHipster BOM that we use, which manages all the dependencies, and we keep the BOM updated. So this one I just generated uses the latest Spring Boot, so that is 2.4, which was recently released. So everything is up to date. So a lot of the core team members actually focus entirely on keeping everything up to date. So that is also another thing we do. It's not just like few years old version. We try to keep everything up to date as possible and keep everything working together. Sometimes we even contribute back to the libraries to make things work when we find that certain combination doesn't work together. So we also do that. So any other questions? So the build is going to take I think at least a minute, I think, since it's the first run. So in the meantime, I can answer questions.
I have millions of questions myself, if nobody else has.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many people work on the project? That seems like an insane amount of work.
I think last I counted, we are more than 600 contributors, and a core team of I think 32. 32 last I counted. That's the core team alone who constantly work, and then there are like countless others who contribute. So it's a very active project. If you look at the GitHub project, you will see that our issue counts are less than 50 now, which is quite insane to maintain at that level because the project is extremely active. I think you can find that from GitHub data, right? How active the project is. So it's extremely active.
Okay. There is a question here from Shino.
How to upgrade from one version of JHipster to a latest version of JHipster, which has customization. This is a tricky part actually for us because we do have a sub command. So if you run JHipster help, you can see all the commands JHipster support. It's not just JDL. We have a lot of I think around 15-16 commands, like to deploy to all the clouds, to generate entities one by one, for example, or just generate client or server, CI/CD generation, all that things. So you'll also find a command called upgrade. So if you run that command on a project, it will upgrade that project, or at least try to upgrade that project to the latest version. So what it basically does is it tries to, so it creates a new branch in your project. It upgrades everything to the latest JHipster. It regenerates the projects and it tries to merge back to your original project and reapply your changes. So of course there will be merge conflicts. So you can fix those merge conflicts and you'll be ready to go. So in ideal scenarios, the upgrade will happen seamlessly. It will merge. The merge will be successful without conflicts. Everything is fine. But in realistic cases, there will be merge conflicts because we don't live in an ideal world. So of course, you're going to fix those merge conflicts. And in cases where you have customized things extremely, like for example, you refactored everything, then the automatic upgrade is not going to work. So in those cases, you can still do manual upgrades. You can regenerate the project in another branch. You can compare the changes and you can take what you want, like how you would normally do in your project. So you can still do that. There is no lock-in. So once you generate something, it's your code. There is no lock-in. There is no hidden away stuff that you can't control. So you can control everything. You can override everything. So you can treat it as code you wrote, and if you upgrade to something else, you can treat it the same way, right?
JHipster is a team member.
Yeah, exactly. Treat of it as a like a super cool team member who did everything in 3 days and ran away. So you can also do that. So that's a perfectly valid way to go as well. So you don't even have to upgrade. Once you have your initial project, if you refactor a lot, of course, if you didn't refactor a lot and if you follow the same structure, it's easy to just upgrade and keep everything up to date. But if you went ahead and like refactored everything, then you can just forget about JHipster and continue it as a custom build project like you would normally do, right? So that's also perfectly feasible. One thing we cannot do yet is like we cannot look at your customizations and upgrade automatically. We can, because we have a CST parsing library already written. So in theory we can do, but AST CST parsing is on the road probably. We still don't have the bandwidth to go there yet. So, but yeah, but things are improving.
If I understand it correctly, if you want to add entities or add new endpoints and things like that, you would have to do that from the JHipster side. If you want to keep JHipster compatibility.
Yeah, if you want to add new entities and if you still want to do upgrade, then it's better to just use the JHipster CLI. You can add entities one by one. There is a command called JHipster entity if you just want to add one entity. Also, you can just upgrade your... Yeah, you can also upgrade your JDL and rerun the command. It will only update what is necessary. It's not going to just overwrite everything. And of course, you have Git as your friend, right?
It's not only something, because I thought about JHipster as something to generate your project and then you're off. But if I wanted to, if I was keeping like the compatibility with JHipster and change tomorrow from MySQL to something else, I could use JHipster to help me there.
Exactly. And if you are yeah, and if you're familiar with Git, right? So what I personally used to do when I was a consultant was I use JHipster with Git, right? So if I want to change something, I regenerate, then I compare and take what is required. I mean, if you are familiar with Git and comfortable, then there is nothing impossible there. You can use JHipster at any point, and you just have to do your merges properly and use. I sometimes use something like Beyond Compare to generate with the latest version, compare with my project, just take what I need. I can just ignore some stuff if I don't want. Also, for example, like the DevOps website was built using JHipster, and the guy who built it, he proposed a solution called, it was Antonio, a good friend of mine. He proposed something called side-by-side development. So what he does is he generates everything with JHipster. He doesn't touch what was generated by JHipster. He just extends, for example, the entity classes. If he has to customize with some stuff, he extends that with his own class and he customizes there, so that when he upgrades, the stuff is maintained and his customizations are not touched. So that is also something you can do if you are comfortable with that way. So yeah, I mean, but you summarized it as correctly. You can just treat JHipster as another member of your team, who did the code and then left your team. So that is also perfectly feasible.
Awesome.
Any other questions? I think this is ready. I can.
I think we can move on. I have a little problem with battery. I'm coming back in a second.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Oh, actually, I didn't take too much time. I thought this would take 20 minutes, but it was faster. So yeah, I think the server is up and running. Yeah, just ignore these errors you're seeing. This is from a latest upgrade, and since I'm running beta, if you run a stable version, you won't see this. I think this we will fix. It doesn't do anything. It's just from some validator from Spring, I think. So I'm going to open it. I'm just going to open it here. Oh, something is eating up my RAM and CPU. I don't know what. Okay, so this is the application we have. To begin with, of course, I enabled internationalization, as you saw here. I specified translation. I provided a native language, and I provided language options of English and NL. I can provide like any number of language. I think at this point, JHipster supports around 35 languages. So since I used English and NL, I have English and Dutch here as languages. I'm going to continue in English. I'm still not good with my Dutch. Let me sign in with the default user, which is admin. And the default password is admin as well. Of course, you have a user as well. I mean, Chrome would complain that the password is, not safe. Of course, it's a default password. You're not supposed to use that. You're supposed to change that in a real project. And also, this is just dev. So this is with default Bootstrap. You can also choose a theme when you generate. I didn't choose any theme, so you can choose from all the Bootstrap themes if you want. So we have all the entities. For example, we have the product category. Let's try to create something. So t-shirts, t-shirts for women. Okay, saved. I'm going to go to product now and create a product. So fancy t-shirt. Let's say 100 since it's fancy. Small. Yep, not that. I don't know. Let me try to find t-shirt. Yes. Oh, nice. And the category that we created. So relationships are automatically managed. So save. Oops. Oh. Something is wrong. Let me quickly check that. What's wrong? Okay, this is the problem of using beta versions. I should have gone with the stable version. No, backend seems fine. Probably something on the front end. Well, no perfect session without some issues, right?
The demo gods.
Yes, I didn't do any sacrifice today. Validation. Yeah, it seems like there is some issue here with passing the product itself. I'm going to try again and see what was missed. Category is there. I'm pretty sure we broke something with the last latest upgrade. Yeah, so again, as I mentioned, I'm using the latest beta 0. So it's beta. I didn't want to use JHipster 6 because JHipster 7 is like round the corner. Probably we would release the stable version in like next month or so. So I just wanted to go with this. That probably was a bad idea. Yeah, it's failing bean validation. So I'm not going to try to fix that in this session. I'm just going to ignore that and try to create another entity. So yeah, note to self.
And just to be clear, we're running right now on a Spring stack.
Yeah, this is on Spring.
Yeah, okay. And there is a database running on your local machine.
Sorry?
There is a database running on your local machine as well.
So I'm using, probably I didn't show that. So when I created the project, I defined, where is it? So I defined two databases actually. So I defined a dev database, which is H2, and I defined a production database, which is MySQL. So if I try to run the production profile, I would have to run either MySQL locally or run the Docker file that was provided by the project. So normally I would just run the Docker project. In a real setup, you'll have your real database, but in development, it will still run MySQL. H2 disk, which is the default. But you can also override that. If you don't like H2 on development, and if you want MySQL on development, you can specify that and it will create that. So that's up to you. But you can't like do like Oracle on production and like MySQL on dev. The only thing on dev is either the one that you chose on production or H2 disk and H2 memory. You can do both. So currently it is running H2 disk. So oops. Yeah. I think this validation is having issues. Yeah, I think I need to go check the bean validations for relationships. So I think it is having issues whenever I choose a relationship. It's being passed down, but I think bean validation is doing something crazy there. Yeah, this probably is from the latest Spring Boot 2.4 upgrade. We did the upgrade like I think 2 weeks ago. This is definitely from that. So, but all our CA is passed, and we have okay. I think our CAs doesn't check entities with relationships. Probably something to add.
There you go. Something for the viewers.
Yeah. If somebody wants to fix this issue, please go ahead and do a PR. Highly appreciated. So other fancy stuff, of course, you get user management by default. So you also have metrics screen, which is quite cool. This is from Spring Actuator, so it will give you all the cool metrics, including your garbage collection stats, your HTTP stats, your caching stats, and your database stats. So all the fancy stuff. Of course, this is available only in dev. So if you run the application in prod mode, all this stuff would be disabled because normally you wouldn't want all this in production. But of course, you can enable that if you want. It's completely configurable with your because since we are running a Spring stack, you also get all that nice Spring configuration stuff. So you can enable, disable whatever you want in the profiles, and you'll get those. By default, it will be disabled in prod profile, but you can just enable it if you like. You also have health monitoring, which probably you can run it in production as well. Only metrics are disabled in production. Metrics and Swagger is disabled in production. What else do you have?
Oh, you do have Swagger as well. Okay.
Yes, we have everything. Come on.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. This is not a toy project. This is
we supposed to be for a 4-hour meetup.
You have every bells and whistles that you could think of.
Okay. It's insane that I didn't hear about JHipster before that last month. I heard about that.
Blasphemy, man. Blasphemy.
Yeah, I don't know.
You should try.
I should have used it a while ago already. So.
Yeah. Of course, you get you can view all the configurations that you're running, which is quite handy actually, especially if you're troubleshooting. Really handy. It has saved me quite a ton of times. And my most favorite feature, so live logs, which you can change actually. So if you want to debug something in production, go ahead, change the log for that particular class to debug, do the debugging in production, and change it back to info or whatever. So this has saved me countless redeployment and stuff debugging time when I used to do consultancy.
Assuming that's not a security problem.
Yeah, depends on what you do. Depends on what you do, of course. Yes, all the disclaimers and stuff, standard disclaimers. Yeah, but cool feature, really cool feature, especially because you don't want everything in debug by default, right? When you're troubleshooting, it's nice to just change, one particular logger to debug, do stuff and change it back. It keeps everything fast. What else? We also have, as I mentioned, Swagger. So I think we upgraded to the latest Swagger. So you get Swagger for all your API endpoints. You get for your default, also for management. So management is all the Spring Boot provided endpoints and the custom endpoints that we provide for management stuff, like cache management. All these.
Do you manage the communication between microservices as well, like mutual TLS and that kind of stuff?
Yes. For microservices, you can do multiple architectures. For example, we have something called JHipster Registry by default, which is a Eureka-based registry and config server. So if you choose that as the registry, then it manages your communication between microservices. It manages your configurations. So it acts as the config server as well as your registry. So that's one option. Another thing you can do is instead of JHipster registry, you can use console, for example. Then console will manage everything, or you can ignore these two, and if you're doing Kubernetes, for example, then you can choose Istio, for example, to manage these, and you can do your native Kubernetes stuff. And we are actually moving away from JHipster registry to something called JHipster Control Center, which is like a better version of that, which has more features. Like, for example, if you use JHipster registry, you get all this administration stuff like metrics, configuration, logs, Swagger, everything for all your services in that registry. So it's great to manage your microservices, because you also have your config server, your router, and your management console in one place. So you can check out things, you can check configurations of everything in one place. So it's quite nice. So JHipster Control Center, which we will be releasing as part of JHipster v7, is supposed to replace JHipster registry. You can also use the control center for monolithic applications. It is not just for microservices. If you want to manage your monolith, and if you don't want all this bells and whistles within your actual application, but you want to do it in a separate application, then you can use control center, and it automatically works with the JHipster application. So when you use a control center, we automatically disable all these fancy bells and whistles within the application. You only get what is required for the application. All the management stuff, admin stuff is in the second application. Right. So I think it would be ideal if you don't want to pollute your actual application with all these things. The database thing is only when you use H2. So if you're using H2, then you get the H2 console. Just convenient. If you use an actual database, then you don't get this. So the Swagger stuff works 100%. Like you get all the fancy try it out stuff. It is pre-configured, so you can actually execute and it will work. So you can do all that stuff. So if you're doing if you're building APIs for external developers, then nice to have Swagger enabled on production as well, and you can just provide this endpoint to your developers for them to discover your APIs and stuff. So that's another use. I think I already went through the translation part.
Yeah.
So the default translations provided translates everything that is generated by default. So as you add new stuff, you have to add translations for the new stuff yourself. Sorry. And of course, account management, like basic settings for your user, password management. So this is the default application that is generated with the entity. So as I mentioned, production grade application in terms of code quality that we try to ensure. And another thing we focus is like on stable versions, things has to work out of the box. If something is not working out of the box, it's a bug, right? We don't provide something and say, hey, we just provide this, you have to figure out how it works. No. The idea is that if you provide a combination, it has to work together. So for example, if you enable Elasticsearch and Kafka during generation, then both has to work out of the box. So it shouldn't be that we just provide the dependencies and you have to figure out how it works. We will provide like for example, like for Elasticsearch, we enable search endpoints for every entity, so which works. And for Kafka, we provide like a default implementation, which you can expand upon, for example. And if you want to do API-driven development with OpenAPI, that is also possible. Yeah, there is tons of options. I didn't even cover like half of it. I only covered whatever we do for monoliths, actually. I didn't even go into microservices, which is like whole ton of another
You can come back again.
Yeah, I mean, if there is interest, of course. I mean, one of the my default demo I try to impress people with is like create like a huge microservice in 30 minutes and deploy it to Kubernetes with everything working. So, which is like quite crazy to think that you can do. I think that's all the stuff that I can show here. If there are questions, I can. I think let me see if I have more stuff. And more snarky comments.
You didn't mention blueprints yet. Is it something you're
that's the last part. I was hoping if someone has questions here, I can finish that because I still have 15 minutes. So probably I can spend a few more minutes on questions until this point, if anyone has, and then go to blueprints, because that's like a whole...
that's cool. So if that's you have questions, ask now.
Yes. I can see that this could be overwhelming to see too many things in one place, but that's why I didn't go into details of the tech stuff, like, because this is supposed to be introductory for you to discover what we have. Because if you really want to learn what we have, then I don't think it will take probably days of explaining, because there are so many technologies we provide. So we don't even want to go into the official blueprints, because that's like providing whole different stack. For example, like If you don't like Spring and if you want something lighter, then Micronaut, which is contributed actually by Micronaut team. So
okay.
yeah. So similarly, Quarkus is by contribute. There are official contributions there. So like and we have a Kotlin one if you want that. So lot of options, and we never expected. When we started, it was Java hipster. Now we just say JHipster. We don't mention Java hipster because we started doing .NET. You can do a fully working .NET.
Like, when do you move to other languages?
Yeah, exactly. So we now have a .NET backend. You have a Node.js backend. I have plans to build a Go backend. So yeah, it keeps on expanding.
There is a question from Eugene, which you already answered earlier, but I'll let you go for it again.
Just to confirm, yes, you can find all this info in the website, and also in my book, which covers both monoliths and blueprints. Both monoliths, microservices, and blueprints with an actual project from start to end in both. So I in the book I actually create e-commerce web application, monolith one. I take it to all the steps that you normally do, like create the thing, customize, add business logic, add CI/CD, deploy to test, do tests, add your own test, customize, blah blah blah, deploy to production. Then I convert that to a microservice, a full-fledged microservice. Go through the same steps of like deploying with Docker, deploying to Kubernetes, deploying with Istio. Then I talk about blueprints and all this stuff. So you can get the book, or you can also find all that in the docs as well. So.
And there is another question which I had missed about deployments in cloud.
Yes, I think for if you choose AWS deployments, we do Terraform, but we don't do Terraform directly. For AWS, we do generate Terraform files. Anything else?
No, I think we can go forward.
Nice. So Julian told me that you guys do fancy stuff like web components and probably do stuff very differently from others. So of course, Julian asked me like if there is something that can be done with JHipster. Of course, anything is possible with JHipster. That's the entire point I was trying to make. Like you can do anything with JHipster. So we have something called blueprints. So this was our way of extensibility, because once we reached a point where adding more things into JHipster was making it too impossible to maintain, we had to find some sort of plugin mechanism. So that's where I came up with the idea of blueprints. So JHipster has a lot of layers, right? So we have a client layer, we have a server layer, we have like CI/CD layers, we have different deployment layers, and even within this client and server, we have multiple layers. Like for example, there is a part where we do prompts in CLI, for example, or process your input from JDL. There is a part where we do configurations for that. There is a part where we actually generate files. So everything is composed of these layers or stages. And with blueprints, we actually expose these things as an API where you can build your own blueprint. We even provide a blueprint generator, so you don't have to build from scratch. So you can use the blueprint generator with these commands, and you can bootstrap a blueprint, and then you can start customizing. For example, we have Vue.js support currently, right? It used to be a blueprint, so we just put it into JHipster. It was quite easy to do because a blueprint follows similar structure as a generator. And what you do inside blueprint is you can pick and choose what you want to customize. For example, if you don't like the front end, and if you just want to customize the front end but use everything else JHipster provides, then you just think of it as a Java interface and class. So JHipster is the interface and the blueprint is the class. So you can choose to implement whatever you want, and imagine that JHipster provides abstract implementations for everything by default. And whenever you implement a particular stage in your blueprint, that will be overridden by your blueprint. So you can also, like JHipster can support multiple blueprints. So for example, you can run two blueprints together, which of course, if both the blueprints are overwriting the same thing, then of course, whichever ran last would take precedence. But for example, if you wanted to run Kotlin on the backend and your own custom, say, web component blueprint on the front end, that is possible. It will overwrite those particular stages, and JHipster will provide everything else. So the only thing that you need to make sure is that when you overwrite something with your blueprint, it has to work with whatever other stuff that JHipster produces. That's the only thing that you have to ensure. So this way you can pick and choose what you want to overwrite. You can overwrite at a very granular level. For example, you can overwrite all the files, for example, for the front end if you want, or you can overwrite certain files for the front end. That's up to you. So for example, if you want to reuse the package JSON we provide, but just change the styling of the created files, just overwrite those files. Just provide templates for those files, and only those will be overwritten. And in your blueprint, you don't have to do any complex logic that we do at JHipster, because we provide everything as an API. So you just have to provide templates and do whatever logic that you want to do to customize stuff. Everything else will be from JHipster. And yeah, I think I can sit here and try to explain this, but the easiest way would be to install JHipster, install the JHipster blueprint generator, fire up a blueprint, and see. By default, it will provide you a sample. Try to do something there, and you'll see how easy it is to do. So currently we have a lot of blueprints. I think we have more than 160 plugins currently, and I think majority of them are blueprints. We also have something called modules, which is not to customize what JHipster does. It is to add behavior to JHipster with a hook mechanism. For example, if you want to run something at the end of generation, then you can create a JHipster module, which would run whatever you provide at the end of generation, which is good to add something like, for example, I have a module called entity audit. So if you want to enable auditing of your entities using Hibernate, then you can use that module. It will add auditing capability at the end of generation to all your entities. But if you want to overwrite completely stuff, then blueprints. So you have a lot of blueprints to choose from. Like there is a Svelte blueprint in the making. There's a lot of front-end blueprints there. So if you want to build a web components blueprint for JHipster, ideal would be to either start with the Svelte one or look at the Vue.js blueprint and just follow that. So that would be the ideal way to customize. So that's how you can make JHipster work for you based on whatever you want. Another use case could be like, for example, at ING, if you have certain way of doing things, right? You can actually still use JHipster and provide your own templates and create specific applications that is based on your needs.
What I'm trying to figure out since you started speaking, we basically have our own framework that's built on top of Spring Boot right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know, but I think you're actually doing a lot of generation of code. Which I wonder, it would be the same, but not quite. Essentially, like the Spring security would have to be different, things like that, which we don't use the same.
Yeah. So in that case, if you create these kind of projects often, then probably you can also create a blueprint which provides your own templates for whatever is different and keep whatever is okay for you as it is. As I said, you can overwrite at a granular level. You can overwrite at a file level. You can overwrite just one file and leave the remaining, or you can actually even go beyond and overwrite things inside the file. But for that, you have to build modules, which we normally like. Recommend creating blueprints for these kind of stuff. But yeah, check it out. I think it could be useful for you. But if it is a one-off project, then probably not worth the effort. If you're only creating this project once, then definitely not worth creating a blueprint for that. Or if you do it like quite often, then probably worth it. Okay. Also, another thing that I can see, even if you don't want to use it as a generator, if the generated code is too much for your style guide, or if it is too if it is too blotted for what you want to do, because as you see, we create a lot of stuff. In that case, you can also use it as a learning tool. You don't have to create the project itself, but you can create something which is quite similar to what you want it to be, and then you can see how certain things are done, and you can maybe reuse that. You can, of course, if you're trying to figure out like I don't know how to get Vue.js working with Spring security, you can figure that out, kind of thing.
Sounds like a good prototyping tool as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can create like a project in like 20 minutes. Then you just need to do UI design and some stuff, right? So if you're just prototyping, and if you want to show something that is more than just a dummy prototype, then yeah, definitely.
Okay. I don't want to end on that stuff, so I hope I don't ask it too late. But what do you pay for? Like all of that good stuff, there's always a bad side of it, right? Do you have extra compilation time? Is it slower to run? Like what's the downside of JHipster?
So no, there is no extra compilation times. I mean, there is no additional compilation time. It's just like,
Okay.
I mean, Webpack takes that much time for this much of code,
Yeah.
so that's going to be there. So of course, we try to optimize as much as possible. But even if you don't use JHipster and if you build something of the similar size, it's going to be the same, probably even worse, because this has gone years of optimizations, right? Downside, of course, is the upgradability that we talked about.
Okay.
Because if you generate everything with JHipster and if you want to continue upgrading to newest versions, and if you keep on changing a lot, then it could be cumbersome. But personally, I think it would be similar if you create your own project. If you try to upgrade, the difference is if it's your own project, you won't be upgrading everything at once. You might be upgrading, like you might have a project to upgrade Spring Boot, which might take a month, or you might have a project to upgrade React or Angular, whatever, which might take another month. But with JHipster, if you're trying to upgrade, then multiple things might get upgraded at once. So depending on how you view it, it might be time saving or more complex to do. That's up to your perspective. Another downside could be we are opinionated. So if you like to do certain things certain way, then you are going to fight the framework, because we are not just a scaffolder. We are like a development platform. So we are opinionated. We provide our own BOM, for example, for backend. So that means we provide our own versions and stuff for certain things. So if you want to use a different version of just one thing, then it's going to probably cause issues for you. Or if you want to do certain thing certain way, once you start fighting the framework, it's going to be an issue for you. So you have to buy into the opinionated things that we produce as well. So
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah, I mean, talk-wise, I'm done.
Marketplace then.
Sorry?
You have a link to a marketplace. I wonder.
Oh, we just call it marketplace. This is where we list all the community modules and blueprints. Of course, JHipster is like completely free. There is the only money we make is from contributions in Open Collective. So of course, if you love it, you can donate. So we have quite generous sponsors, which is giving us enough money to give back. So of course you can make money with JHipster so what we do is whatever we get as contributions, we actually give it back to the community as bug bounties. So if you look at our issue tracker, there are bounties on most of the tickets. So if you do a PR to fix that, then you can claim that money. So
awesome.
It's none of us make any money from it. We get sponsorships and we give it back to the community.
I was wondering if maybe the marketplace is like a marketplace of all the applications that have been created.
No.
Anymore.
No. I think that you can find in GitHub, because in GitHub, if you go to the project, there is a tab called projects. I think it has like 40,000 projects, which uses JHipster as a dependency. So I would assume at least like 10% of that is like not like real projects and not like sample applications that someone generated. But it's hard to know, right? Because real applications, nobody might put it in GitHub as public, right? So I mean, we do have some 300 plus companies which voluntarily registered in an Excel sheet that we provide, saying that they use JHipster, like which includes like big names like Google or like those kind of people, even like the large CERN, they apparently use JHipster for something. So I mean, we find all these things in the wild, which is nice to know, but we never know actually how they use stuff.
How it's used,
yeah.
And I have a last question, because it makes me think. I'm actually slowly diving into Kubernetes myself, and one of the things that I looked into is the, Google has this kind of microservices example thing that you can just run as a way to get started with cluster. And I was thinking about using JHipster to do my own stuff, right? One of the things that they do have, which is nice, is they have the fake traffic generation, essentially. So they have fake users coming on the platform and, like making requests.
Like end-to-end test, like
fake traffic, essentially. Do you have any of that? Because that's the only thing that I can see that you don't have yet.
I mean, you can do it actually, because so how you can do it is so we provide Cypress, right, as an end-to-end testing framework. So what you can do is, and also we also provide Gatling as a performance testing tool. So you can use either this or that. you can generate that, and it will work with this application, right? So what you can do is once you deploy it with Kubernetes, you can just change the URL to your actual application, and you can run either the Cypress end-to-end test, which would be against that, or the Gatling performance test, which will generate that kind of traffic for you. So
it does generate Gatling stuff already. Wow. Okay.
Nice. Yeah, it can generate Gatling as well. It's optional. You have to, by default it wouldn't. You have to opt in for Gatling. Then it will generate performance tests. So I think there is a question there. So,
did I miss anything? Igmar?
Yeah, there is a question.
Igmar was saying if you add AI, we can watch Netflix all day. Which
when will AI be added? So, I mean, we are halfway there, right? As I said, like, I think the only thing that you need to do now is the UX design and business logic, and GPT-3 is getting quite good at coding. So probably at future we can integrate GPT-3 and we'll be done, So could be. Yeah.
All right.
It would be lovely to have that, actually.
Well, the only thing that will be left to do is actually keep JHipster up to date,
Yeah.
I think we're through with the questions. Does anyone else? I think.
I finished faster. Normally, I take I take more time than if it is a 1 hour session, I take 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I was really trying hard to go faster. So I think I went too fast.
It's all right. No, it was packed with info. I liked it. It was quite interesting. It actually, I have to say, the website to me was a little fuzzy. Like I didn't know what it was solving or not.
Yeah, you mean the doc website, right?
At the same time, you have so much that to say in one page and 3 lines at the beginning of the website. Like how much can you say at once? So I do like the design of the icons as well.
No, this was again community contributions as well. We build the initial few, then people started contributing more different icons. So it was our diversity effort, because the original JHipster logo was like a white guy,
with a beard and
I think at some point people were like, it's not diverse enough. We are like, we should add more icons. So that was like a thing from that. Since I finished 10 minutes earlier, if you want me to revisit something, I'm happy to do that. To answer your actual question, yes, the doc website is not the best. It is, I think the current website was redesigned by me 3 years ago, probably. So currently there is a proposal to actually redesign it with some professional help, with some product designers and stuff. Probably we'll do that. Again, as you know, since you are a developer as well, we are not the best when it comes to documenting properly, right?
I think the website looks amazing. It's just and the documentation is actually quite nice as well. It's the landing page. Because you have so much to unpack at once. And the landing page is only a few lines always, right? It's like JHipster, and that's what we do. We do coffee. But now I understand why. It just makes sense.
That's a really good feedback. Probably that's something we should work on, the redesign, to express better what we do. This is where I probably should self-market. So if you get my book, probably you'll get a better explanation because I tried to explain it like from a full stack developer point of view as much as possible, and from what I hear, it's decent. So maybe
No, it's good. So I'm reading it again, and now it makes sense. So the JHipster is a development platform to quickly generate, develop and deploy. I thought you guys were at the beginning of the chain to generate a whole thing, and then. But you're much more than that. You actually support and keep supporting with time and help people keep up to date. And so it's actually much more than I was expecting. It's awesome.
Yeah. And another thing I would like to say is we are thriving on the community contributions, right? How I look at JHipster is, a developer with 600 minds, so there is the wisdom and effort of a lot of people in there. So if you have contributions or if you have ideas, please feel free to contribute. Go to our GitHub page, look at issues if you want to fix anything. yeah, you can also pick the ones with bounties and make some money. I think we start at $100 and go up to like 500 for some issues. So if you want to make some quick bucks, that's also possible. If you have a feature request, yes, feel free to suggest that. Suggestions, yeah, improvements, yes, feel free to do that. And also, I mean, as a learning thing, I mean, interesting factor is though by default we are generating Java applications, JHipster is completely coded in JavaScript. So,
oh really?
Yes, it's 100% JavaScript.
Okay, then no, I was considering contributing, but
no, you can still contribute. You can contribute to the Java templates, you know. So, that's the beauty of it. Nice. If you, regardless of what you want to do, there is a portion where you can contribute.
Yeah.
So you can contribute in templates. You can contribute in, like, if you want to do Kubernetes stuff. You said you want to do Kubernetes stuff, right? I mean, probably you can do if you want to test scaling and stuff. I think so. People at Google actually use JHipster to test scale stuff. Like, for example, if they want to, if they want to do 100 microservices, right? It's easy way. You just write one JDL with 100, like just replicate your application with different names, like 100 of them, like, you know, put some entities or whatever. Then you have these 100 applications, Kubernetes ready, and just deploy and test, right? So you can do these kind of things.
One of the things that seduced me, and I think I will use it for that, is as a developer, it's really hard to know everything, right? But you still hear a lot of things. You can't know, you know, console and Kafka and Elasticsearch, and maybe generating things like that and see how it's done.
Exactly. Yeah.
Give you a quick heads up and just be aware of how it works and, you know, how to set up metrics and stuff like that. So it's actually super interesting for me. In that sense, as a developer.
True.
Thanks a lot, Deepu. I think we'll move forward with that at ING. We have those equivalent of Google Days or something. Maybe we'll run a half-day workshop or something like that, because I think it's too big to pass on it.
Yeah, true. I mean, in the end, however, you know, the end goal is to help others, right? Like help community, help others, like, because we learn a lot. I mean, I personally learned a lot working on JHipster. I mean, I learned about cloud computing and like Kubernetes and everything from JHipster by working on it, from contributions of others. For example, the Kubernetes support was from Raid Sang. He was a Google advocate for Kubernetes, so he contributed to the Kubernetes part. So similarly, we had the OpenShift actually from OpenShift developer advocate. So these were from people who actually know these stuff well. So I was like, okay, this is the best way for me to learn it as well, right? So similarly, if it helps you to, I don't know, create a project or test something or learn something, I think we would be very happy with that.
All right. Yeah. Do you work on it as part of Adyen, or is it something completely separate for your day job?
So with Adyen, since it's a payment tech, I don't think there is a lot of intersection with JHipster. Still, I managed to do a example application with that, like an e-commerce with an Adyen integration for payment, right? So I couldn't pass on that. So I did. But other than that, there is no much intersection, unfortunately. Also, using something like this within Adyen would be, you know, with the security policies and everything, would be like really, really. I think, you know, right? You work for a bank, so
that's why I was asking. All right. Thanks a lot. Cool. That was a great evening.
Yeah, happy to do that, and thanks for having me. And of course, if you want to know more or something,
we will.
Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or something if you have questions.
We'll stay in touch. Exactly. Buy the book if you're interested. It's probably a good idea as well. Learn from the man. And thanks again. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Yeah.